Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 201 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Giltaca. Thanks for joining me again. So this is sort of the Christmas episode, I guess you could say. But as usual, we have a ton of stuff to tell you about. It is always amazing to me how much goes on that affects licensed gun owners. Anyway, I could go on about that, but I'm not going to. So in this episode, we're going to have an interview with Robert Freberg, who's the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office, and Robert's going to come on and explain some of the intricacies of the legislation, different pieces of legislation that Saskatchewan has brought forward provincially to interfere with the overreach of the federal government as it applies to this confiscation program. Also, the Big Boot Gun Club in PEI, a group of volunteers, the CCFR, the Conservative Party of Canada, a bunch of people came together and won a vote at the Charlottetown City Council. It's a great story, and there's a fantastic moral of the story that we want to communicate to you as well. Speaking of people pushing back against the feds, Yukon stacks up against the feds along with Saskatchewan and Alberta now, so that's really interesting. Another floor crossing from the Conservatives to the Liberals, bringing the Liberals one seat away from a stolen majority. Very interesting. We're going to talk about that as well. And we're going to talk about the CCFR AGM, and we're going to give you the date of the AGM this coming year. Make sure you save that as well. We're going to have a talk, and again, it's going to be one of these uncomfortable conversations about gun owners getting black-pilled. And really, it has to do with if you're being black-pilled, if you're black-pilling yourself as a gun owner, just do it by yourself. Don't try to drag everyone else in the community down with you, because the fight isn't over. So I want to talk in a little bit of detail about that. And of course, the terror attack at Bondi Beach in Australia. And so as a result of that terror attack, the government comes out literally within 24 hours, and they're calling for new restrictions on bolt actions and a variety of other guns. Anyway, and of course, the Canadian anti-gunners are right on side with that too. If you ever thought it was going to stop, you were wrong. Anyway, all that and more, CCFR Radio starts right now. Thank you so much to our great friends over at Vortex Canada. They continue to support the CCFR podcast and the CCFR. Can't say enough about them. Check out all their great products at vortexcanada.net. That's vortexcanada.net. Vortex, the force of optics. A huge thank you goes out to our great friends over at the Saskatchewan Rivers chapter of Safari Club International. They do a lot of great work over there, including supporting the CCFR and the CCFR Radio podcast. Check out all their great work at saskriverssci.com. That's saskriverssci.com. 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿 has been a provider of trauma care training to military and police in Canada for nearly 2 decades. Now this emergency medical training is being made available to a wider audience through 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿's online courses. Go to 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿academy.com and use promo code CCFR30 to get 30% off. That's 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿academy.com. All right, we are back. Now, this is going to be a very long episode as it is, because we have an extremely interesting, extremely important interview with Robert Freberg of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office, because there are provinces within this country that are doing every single thing at a provincial level that they can possibly think of. Fast-tracking legislation, all kinds of things to protect licensed gun owners that live within their boundaries, right? And Saskatchewan certainly is one of those provinces. And what Saskatchewan is doing is incredibly creative and shows an extremely high, the highest level of commitment in the country, Saskatchewan and Alberta, and Yukon as well, right? They made an announcement. Tracy and I are going to talk about that. But I'm telling you, you got to appreciate what these provinces are doing, not only because of what they're actually doing to hold back the feds and to protect their citizens, but what they're doing to stand up and act as an example of what other provinces should be doing to protect their people from getting, A, their stuff taken, and B, ripped off in the process. Like, those are important things. I know we want it all back. We want all repeal and everything, but whatever. We got to do what we can with what we have right now. And I'll tell you, there's a couple of provinces and a territory in this country that are doing everything for their people. And you got to appreciate that. And it's important that you understand what it is they're actually doing. So that's why we have that interview. So I can't wait to show that one to you. Also, don't forget, Tracy and I did the 10th anniversary special, the 2-hour special, just a couple of weeks ago. Make sure that you check that out. You can put that on while you're reloading ammunition or cleaning the house or whatever, right? Flying an airplane, whatever it is you do. I'm not suggesting you do that. That was only a joke. And that's a very, litigious society these days. Anyway, just turn that on while you're doing something else and listen to it. It's just interesting, the journey that we've been through and everything we tried everything we possibly could this whole time. And it's interesting when you hear it all in succession. It's like, man, we tried a lot of stuff, but we're not finished yet. We're going to talk about that in this episode. So make sure you check out the 10th anniversary special. Now, there's one thing I was talking to Tracy about. I said, you know what? There are a number of projects that we did that have a really interesting story that we didn't even touch because it's stinking 2 hours long, man, right? And I said, I want to start highlighting some of those stories never told in the podcast. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And I gave her 2 examples, and they are great stories. And we didn't have time to tell one today because so much is going on that's current with gun owners right this second. So anyway, very strange time. All right. I wanted to someone asked me about the Gunnie Girls documentary. And I want to give you an update on that because when someone asks, I'm like, I have not given an update on that whatsoever. So when I committed to do that Gunnie Girl documentary, that was an opportunity I thought we had right after the election because I was like, what am I even doing here? What am I going to do? Right? I have to do something of value. And that'll be a really great thought-provoking piece. And it's a feel-good piece and it represents gun owners as they truly are, like just regular good people, all the rest of that stuff. But after the election, none of these things stopped. Everything started actually accelerating to the point where I'm giving you I don't even know how long this episode is going to be, an hour and 10 minutes for something that was used to be typically 40 minutes. And it's jam-packed full of stuff. So it's crazy. But anyway, the Gunnie Girl documentary is just going to have to wait a little bit longer. It's about 95% filmed. I only have just a tiny little bit left to film, and then I can start editing it. So it's probably going to have to wait for a couple months because we have a big campaign coming out and we have a contest, which is the biggest contest in the history of gun owners in Canada. You are going to love it. You're going to be like, it's awesome. Huge contest. All that is coming up by the end of January. So check that out. And then the last thing I want to say is I'm going to be giving you some important information in the outro. So make sure you watch the episode to the end because I even have a bit of a call to action. I need something from you guys, but I'll talk about it in the outro because there's a lot of good content coming up. Anyway, all right, let's get this whole thing started with an interview with Robert Freberg of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office. All right, via the internet, we've got Robert Freberg, who is the Commissioner of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office. How's it going, Robert?
Good morning.
Thanks for being on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, nice to be on again. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. So we have some important things to talk about. And basically, I guess if I were to, summarize them, it's what is Saskatchewan doing for lack of a better term, ensure that the government's program is done correctly and in the best interest of all involved. Let's say that for the time being. But Saskatchewan has rolled out some legislation on a number of different fronts. And the most recent legislation, I guess, really has 2 components as it applies to firearm owners. And the first would be legislation that obligates, I guess, both the provincial and federal government to pay for property if they diminish the value of that property.
Well, again, I think what I'd like to clarify is that it's not the provincial government that's making people whole on this. I mean, we're totally and 100% opposed to what they're doing. We don't see it as a good public safety initiative. And what we're really doing is making sure that the federal government who's brought this forward is in fact paying to confiscate these firearms from individuals. And there has been some confusion saying, well, the provincial government is using provincial money to buy firearms. We're not. We're putting legislation into place to give our citizens the opportunity to be able to hold the federal government accountable for the loss of revenue and use of their property.
Yeah. So it's important to understand why that's an issue. as we've spoken before, obviously, about this, the government they have a capped program, a capped budget. They plan to buy only a tiny fraction of the firearms that are in circulation that were previously non-restricted and are now prohibited. So we think, and I'm not implying that you agree, but based on my research, there's probably over 2 million of these guns in circulation. The government wants everyone to participate because apparently their story is that these guns are too dangerous to have in our communities. That's what they're saying. And then at the same time, they're saying, well, we're willing to pay for about 26,000 of those previously non-restricted, now prohibited firearms when we think there's over 2 million in circulation. So the government has told us, the gun lobby, that this is a capped program. They're not paying for more than that. So 150, just to be clear, 152,000 guns in total, but 126,000 of those are restricted. So they're going to probably go after those first. Previously restricted means 26,000 previously non-restricted firearms. So I don't know. It sounds to me like they're trying to rip everybody off. And at least Saskatchewan is recognizing this and saying, no, you can't do that. You said you're going to pay and now you got to pay.
Well, there's no question. But the other thing that I want to expand on that, Rod, is that what our legislation does, it doesn't just apply to these OIC guns. It, of course, applies to future guns that get prohibited, but it also applies to handguns. And we're very concerned about that because people still have the use of these handguns. But then let's say myself, I pass away and I have a collection of handguns. Now my executor is sitting with these handguns. What happens to them? Well, they're very difficult to export. And when you do, there's very little money left over after you pay for all the costs to get them out of the country. But then at the same time, my state is left, without that revenue, which in a lot of cases, in your listeners' cases, is significant. So again, this legislation extends across to that. It also covers accessories and ammunition. And I'll use the example of a 50 BMG rifle. You get X number of dollars for the rifle, which we feel already is low, but you've got potentially 1,000 rounds of ammunition, which is probably worth anywhere $10,000, $15,000, pick a number. But what are you going to do with that ammunition? There's no longer a gun in Canada you can shoot it in. You can't sell it, can't export it. What do you do with it? First of all, how do you even get rid of it? And more importantly, how do you get compensated for it? So again, I think there's a variety of issues here that haven't been addressed in the buyback. And again, I hate using that word. It's a confiscation or some compensation. But again, we've been told directly that it's first come, first served. We better get on quick or we won't see any money. So again, our legislation, I think, addresses that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want anyone to miss the significance of all this because I think we end up with all this this rhetoric from the government this whole time, like for 5.5 years. Oh, don't worry, gun owners, you didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. So you're going to be fairly, fully and fairly compensated. And, and it's like, well, you're going to give me some money for guns. And I've looked at the price list. I've kind of ran everything through I have through that price list. And some of the prices are like, okay, well, that's sort of what it costs, but I paid tax on that, plus all the accessories, plus ammunition. I mean, I'm sitting on piles of 5.56 that I have no guns to shoot it out of. And if I decide I'm going to buy a bolt action to plink around with all this ammunition that I had for sport shooting and training, then I'll be going every day for the rest of my life. So all of that is a total loss based on what the government has decided to do for probably purely political purposes. So I can't stress enough that this is a really just a really good approach to make sure that even if all this does happen, that people are fairly compensated as was promised.
Well, the other side of it is, and I think even looking at the other side of the equation, I mean, there's others out there that are strong advocates that, we have to, supposedly their words, not mine, take these guns off the street and, they're a risk to themselves and others having these guns and so forth. But at the end of the day, the key to compliance is compensation. So if, provinces that are and groups that are supportive of getting these guns removed, I think anyone would recognize that unless people are getting paid, different your car or your house, I mean, you're not going to, give it away for free or 10 cents on the dollar. So again, I think it's irresponsible for the government to bring a program and underfund it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if they want success with this, that they're going to have to make sure people are encouraged, I guess, through compensation to have compliance. Again, it's up to individuals if they want to comply or not. Although I would caution the fact that, particularly with the registered firearms, I don't see any reason or ability to not comply. They know who has the guns, and they've made them prohibited and made you a criminal once the amnesty ends. So I mean, again, I'm not sure how you get around that.
Yeah, it's really it's a bad situation. Now, there's some other legislation that was tabled in November, and it has to do with maybe I don't understand it completely, but it has to do with I guess a storage opportunity with the province of Saskatchewan. Can you explain that?
Well, going back to what I was just discussing, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, there's been some provinces that are saying, don't comply. We're not going to enforce, and fair enough. But at the same time, although they may be able to direct provincial officials and courts to potentially not prosecute, it's not in the public interest, which obviously it isn't. But we have to remember that there is federal law enforcement folks that don't report to the provincial government in any province and report directly to the Canadian Firearms Program. And then you have federal court, and many of these charges that could be laid would be Federal Firearms Act charges, which again would go through a federal court. And again, don't report to the province. So what we're looking at is saying, okay, well, you need to bring this action against to get paid and be treated properly. And we're bringing legislation in to mandate that. But at the same time, those court cases are going to take some time. Obviously, probably not going to be even in front of a judge by October of the amnesty extending of next year, or ending, I should say. And we want to give people the opportunity to be in compliance. So it's not illegal to own the firearm. What's going to be illegal when the amnesty ends is to have it in your possession. So what we're doing is we're offering an alternative to that and allowing for the province of Saskatchewan to store those firearms under our public safety agency designation and hold them legally while you go through the challenges you have in court to get this resolved, however long that might take, or potentially maybe there's a change in government and this legislation goes away. I mean, we have no crystal ball to determine either.
Yeah. So basically I can, if the amnesty is ending and I don't want to give up my firearm, yet I don't want to be sitting in possession of it, which is a serious criminal charge, I can give it to the Saskatchewan government for safe storage. I'll get a receipt for the firearm, and you guys can legally hang on to it while I take the government to court for either compensation or wait for a better government than the one we have. Is that
correct? That's exactly what the case may be. And we're not telling people they have to do it. At the end of the day, it's, if people want to, not comply, maybe they have a non-registered firearm and they feel that they want to take their chances. I mean, that's up to the individual. I'm not here to advise people to commit a criminal code offense, but at the end of the day, it's up to each and individual firearms owner to determine what works best for them and what risks they're willing to take, I guess. But at the end of the day, I mean, we want to provide a safety net and that's viable and legal for people to be able to stay in compliance so they don't lose their ability to still maintain their handgun registrations, purchase ammunition and other guns. Because again, nobody wants to go to the store and find out their license has been put under review by the Canadian Firearms Program and they no longer can purchase further firearms or ammunition. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not a good outcome for anybody.
Yeah, well, and if your license is canceled by the federal government, you're in unauthorized possession of your handguns and anything else too. So
all guns, ammunition. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're totally offside.
Absolutely. Well, I think I do want to draw attention to the idea that a lot of people are like, what? Give my gun to the government, whether it's the government of Saskatchewan or the government of Canada. People don't want to do it. I mean, there's a crisis of trust in institutions and in governments, and I think for good reason. But if you're thinking like, I'm not giving my gun to anybody, or what is it that Saskatchewan is doing? Like, think about that for a second. The province of Saskatchewan is moving mountains. to help gun owners hang on to those guns and avoid criminal sanctions, right? So while the whole thing is an imperfect solution, I really have to thank you on behalf of a lot of gun owners, Robert, for working with the government of Saskatchewan and coming up with really innovative solutions to just hold this back. I don't know. Maybe we can get a different federal government. Maybe all this goes away, or maybe we got to fight this for another. Maybe these guys get in a majority from, via floor crossers or whatever, and we have to fight them and delay them for another 3 years. I don't know. But I appreciate, on behalf of gun owners, I really appreciate the help.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think I just want people to understand that. I mean, I'm affected by this myself. So, I mean, I've got skin in the game, so to speak. And, I took this job because I want to advocate for responsible firearms ownership and encourage more people to get into the sport, which we've been very successful in. And I guess I would just say to your listeners, I mean, direct your energy where it's going to do the best for the community, because at the end of the day, we're getting lots of folks saying, well, why don't you just do what Alberta's doing? But you need to look a little further past that. I mean, Alberta's doing some great things and a lot of good measures. And again, I haven't seen the legislation come out that they're actually bringing forward to somehow provide some type of a safety net around prosecution. But in the meantime, here's, the best information and advice that we're getting. And it's another tool in your toolkit to be able to hang on to your property and make sure that you're properly paid for anything that's being seized.
Yeah, it's strange times. Anyway, really appreciate all the help, and thanks for coming on today. And I guess we'll get another update from you before long.
Oh, great. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to speak to your listeners, and hope everyone had a good fall and all the best in the new year and for Christmas season as it's approaching.
You too, Robert. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, here we are via the internet with Tracy Wilson of the CCFR. Wilson!
I'm back in my my hometown office here.
It's been a whirlwind, right?
Oh, yeah, I've been all over the place. I've been everywhere, man. There's a country song about that.
You have been everywhere. Now, we have a ton of stuff to go through. I wish, there is some good news, actually. I wish there was more, but there is a couple of bright spots. And we're going to start off with a couple, and we're going to end with a couple. And then we'll put all the garbage stuff in between. How about that?
Okay, I like it.
Just, it's our reality, man. That's why it's a fight, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So the first thing, let's talk about some good news. The buyback, Big Gary, he's been cruising around the country looking to make deals with city councils to support these buyback pilots or the buyback actual main program or what have you. Waving around borrowed federal dollars that people have to pay back at interest over generations. But whatever he's having to do to try to make this thing work, he's been relatively unsuccessful. But his next target was Prince Edward Island, Charlottetown. So what happened?
Yeah, that's right. So I got a call actually from my good friend, Angie McDonald from the Big Boot Gun Club. And she told me that the city council was looking at partnering with the federal government to carry out the buyback program in their jurisdiction. And I was like, oh no, we got to do whatever we can. You remember that we were in Cape Breton when that started. We were in New Brunswick and Boys Town. And so I jumped on a plane and went to Charlottetown. And we had a lot of help. We had Blaine Culkins, the Shadow Minister for Hunting, Fishing and Conservation, Carol 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐶 from Long Range Mountains, and Jamie Fox, he's the candidate for Malpeque, and a whole bunch of other stakeholders. And we ended up getting a win there. Now, let me tell you, this was a 2-piece project. So we did a rally on the day of the vote at City Council in their chambers. We basically went to the meeting. They allowed us in, which originally they weren't going to. But the day before that, we had a stakeholder meeting, and this was key to the success. This was all arranged by Angie, and there was all kinds of people there. Angie was there, Don Wills from Atlantic Guns and Gear, Ken and Fuad, who are local gun owners. And then, of course, we had the mayor there. There was a couple of councillors. RCMP were in attendance, local law enforcement, and a bunch of other stakeholder groups. And it was interesting to hear what the only information that they had was what was given to them by Big Gary and the Liberal government. And of course, they were sold a bill of goods that this is for gun owners. The gun owners want it. This is helping your constituents get paid. It's for public safety. So it was vitally important for us to get in front of them, give them the truth about the buyback program, the gun grab, and the Liberals, and of course, completely overwhelm them at their council meeting. And this went from a vote that we were supposed to lose to a vote that we ended up making unanimously against, supporting the Liberal government with their gun grab. So yeah, a 100% win in Charlottetown, PEI.
That is absolutely awesome. And thankfully, you you put it on the line again. You know, you just gotten back from traveling. You had a couple of days at home, and then on a moment's notice, you had to go fly to PEI. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, you know, this is what we're doing, right? So I know I didn't really feel like going, but I was happy to go, and it made all the difference. And that's kind of my message to everybody watching, is if you're curious what's going on with your council, take a minute and go pop over to their website. Most city councils, especially urban and semi-rural, will have websites where they've got their meeting agendas, minutes from previous meetings. Find out if your council is talking about this. Do some keyword searches in their minutes and find out. But you know, we can't have eyes everywhere. But if you find anything, reach out to us at info@ccfr.ca, and let's try and continue to win across the country. They're supposed to be rolling out that program next month. And so far, out of 138 municipal police forces, they've got help from 2. So,
yeah. So there's a really important lesson in there. The city council was on board before you and everyone from the gun club and all the whole crew that was there.
Yes.
The city council was on board because they're only getting one side of the story. And the difference was 2 days of effort. They heard the other side, and it was a unanimous vote the other way. So
yes,
and we're going to talk about this later, right? People are like, oh, don't do anything. Just give up, you know, collapse the CCFR, stop fighting this stuff. It's a waste of time. And then these little, like, that is such a great example of how you can turn the entire thing the other way, your way, if you just put in the time and the effort, if you just do it.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway.
Yeah. And these people aren't experts. You know, people were kind of angry at the city councilors for the way their vote was supposed to go. And it's like, well, it isn't even a full-time job in Charlottetown. They all have full-time jobs or businesses, and it's like a part-time gig, right? They can't be experts in everything. Municipal governments are supposed to be worrying about picking up your garbage or plowing your roads or stuff like that. The stuff that municipalities are supposed to be responsible for. They are not experts on gun control, gun bans, or the Firearms Act, right? So just getting actual community people in front of them, having a candid conversation, letting them ask us some questions, giving them the truth, it completely flipped the switch. So yeah.
Well,
get out there and make it happen too.
They, you know, city councils and even police forces, like, these people are prey for a predatory federal government that will go and lie and tell them all kinds of horrible things and then wave borrowed money at them, you know, like, to convince them to do something they really shouldn't do. So anyway, very interesting. Okay, more good news. So you've got Saskatchewan doing everything they possibly can to hold back the feds. You got Alberta doing everything they possibly can to hold back the feds, and more coming from Alberta, I think, in short order. Now you've got Yukon lining up. They had an election. They overwhelming, like a clear majority, conservative-oriented government. And then in the throne speech, they mentioned that they're going to be standing up for licensed gun owners in Yukon.
Yeah, I've got the clip here. Well, the portion. Yukoners deserve safe communities where their families can thrive and their businesses can prosper. And that is why policing resources should be focused on crime rather than confiscating people's lawfully acquired property. Hunting and shooting are foundational to Yukoners' way of life, particularly to First Nations exercising their constitutional rights. Unlike criminals, the territory's gun owners are thoroughly vetted, law-abiding citizens. And that is why government will take action to support the rights of legal gun owners in this territory, and we will advise the government of Canada that the Yukon government will not participate in Ottawa's firearm buyback program. So yeah, pretty strong message, stacking up with Alberta and Saskatchewan against the Libs gun grab and supporting their citizens. Imagine. Must be wonderful to have a government that supports you.
Well, we have some really good people working in that region. So
yes, we sure do.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. Very determined, rational, reasonable, good people working over there. So, and now let's start diving into some of the more concerning news. So December 6th just passed again. And
Yes.
of course, every year, all the people who have done absolutely nothing to deserve to have their property taken or to be slandered or dragged through the mud or, all the rest of this stuff, we all have to brace because it's this annual situation where it's where the anti-gun lobbies and the governments that collude with them decide they're going to roll something else out, again, affecting exclusively licensed gun owners, not unlicensed criminals and not people with, mental illness or whatever, just exclusively the good people that would turn in their guns if a buyback, anyway. So this time around, they really didn't have a lot because they're struggling with this whole SKS thing. Like they're struggling hard, right? And you can comment on this, but they rolled out this report that was done a year ago and tried to roll it out as recent news. But even the whole, I think the report brings up again what a ridiculous farce this whole program and the prohibitions and everything that surrounds the Liberal Party and their co-conspirators in the anti-gun lobby.
Well, it is interesting, and you're right. Polly's been pushing really hard to get the SKS banned, and I think that was their hope, is that they could get that ban in time for their December 6th memorial. And of course, that didn't happen. And in fact, if you read the statement from the Prime Minister, he actually doesn't even mention the gun ban in it. He mentions a variety of other measures. So they needed something, right? Polly needs something to post on that day so that they can pretend to support the government and that they'll ever be satisfied. So they released this report from the Expert Advisory Panel on Firearms. Now, if you're asking yourself who is on that panel, that's a good question, but you will not find the answer to that because, of course, the panel is entirely anonymous. They are unnamed. They are unaccountable. And we're supposed to believe that they're experts, regardless of the fact that we don't get to know who they are. And the report, I can save you the too long didn't read. Ban semi-auto rifles, ban semi-auto shotguns, ban. That's basically all it said, right? That's the only solution they've got to any problem. So I was reading through the report to see, what did they do? And it talked about a variety of meetings that they had and then their independent research that they did. But this panel of supposed experts was also received a technical briefing, a tour of the firearms vault, a presentation of examples of firearms on the GAP list. And the GAP list is Polly's wish list that they still want banned. And a list of guns. They were provided with a list of guns to ban. So, I'm just thinking about it. I was reading that thinking, wait, they're the experts, but yet they received all this technical training and all this stuff from who? Like from the firearms lab? So are the Liberals just directing the lab to tell the expert secret panel what a mess, if we were being honest with ourselves about this and we were going to have a conversation about what's appropriate for civilian sporting and hunting use, then have that. But this is not that. So anyways, it was sort of this not actually new report that they sent out to the media to make a news headline so Polly would have something to beat us over the head with. And yeah, it's kind of come and gone and whatever. It was actually a huge nothing burger.
Yeah. Well, it's the interesting dynamic in all this is every year Polly threatens the Liberals that they'll be excluded from the memorial, that they won't be welcome there every stinking year, no matter what. And at some point, like I think anyone that pays really close attention to any of this have seen that the whole gun control thing, the gun ban and whatever, it's not playing well for the Liberals. It's not like it used to. It's not the way that it used to be back, 8-9 years ago, where you could make some political hay with it. I think normies, people that don't know any of this stuff, people that lean left are probably going like, from what I've heard, this doesn't make a lot of sense. It's only licensed gun owners. And there's a reason why people are starting to come to that conclusion, and they got fatigue on it. And I think Polly's getting pretty desperate right? They keep threatening the only government that is in a position to win an election, who has won 4 in a row, but they keep threatening that government that they're going to withdraw their support. And it's like, well, who else is going to do this for you? The Conservatives aren't. And then at the same time, they just keep wanting more and more and more. And at some point, and this is what I'm hoping, at some point, the Liberals are going to be like, this whole movement is a liability. This is not helping us. And these people are perpetual, despite the billions and billions of dollars and the division and the anger and the sacrifice of the relationship between law-abiding gun owners and the government, law-abiding gun owners and the police, law-abiding gun owners and the bureaucracy. Like there's a lot of political capital being spent here, a lot of sacrifice. And division is a real problem these days. So they're piling onto that. Despite all that, Polly's like, do what we say, get in trouble with the Indigenous who have a lot of SKSs. No, we want you to go all the way or you're not invited. At some point, the Liberal Party might be like, okay, you know what? That's fine. We're not going to show up. And then what are they going to do? I don't know.
Well, they didn't get their SKS ban.
No.
And they didn't get, all the things they actually want. They got this recycled year-old report made into a fresh news story. And it's interesting when they blame the government, because what's different this time around compared to other times is they are the government. Their own Natalie Provost is now a sitting member of parliament. She's not just in caucus, she's in cabinet. And they're still not getting that done. So, this year, I think they were threatening that Liberal politicians shouldn't even wear the white ribbon if they don't do what they say, right? And it's like, well, that's awkward. So what does that mean when you have Natalie sitting in the House of Commons? So anyways, it's, they're not going to quit, and neither are we. So we're just in this perpetual cycle, and we'll just see who can outlast the other, I suppose.
Well, that's what it's going to come down to, I think. Now, moving on, because we still got more stuff to talk about and some important things. So there was the Buyback pilot in Cape Breton. And the way that it looks, they brought in, they were able to have the public, I believe it was somewhere around 3,100 licensed gun owners in that jurisdiction, disclose to the government that they were in possession of 22 guns, all of them together. And I don't know what that represents, like literally 5 or 6 people. Now,
it was pretty small.
Now, this is an interesting story to me. And of course, it's going all different directions. So you have one of the people that participated, this is a gun owner, participated in this buyback because he has prohibs, right? AR-15s. And I believe it was a complete lowers, because the government had said flat out, the lower is the firearm, you're getting your money for the firearm when you turn the lower in. Now the uppers, I'm now moving around a little bit just because I'm just thinking this is a good thing to let people know if they're unaware. The uppers are not the firearm on an AR-15 or any firearm that splits between a lower and upper, but the upper is a prohibited device. It's like having a hand grenade or a landmine, right? So you have to turn it in for destruction, or if you're caught with it, you get prosecuted under unauthorized possession of prohibited device, as if you're caught with a hand grenade. But anyway, this fellow, we're going to call him Buyback David for now, just as a placeholder. He participated in this thing to see what the heck would happen, because he's got, I think, a lower, and his wife's got a lower, and he's got a full rifle or something like that. And what happened to him was exactly what you would have expected.
Yeah. So the Buyback David posted all about this on CGN. It was pretty interesting. And I wrote I kind of didn't write a story, but I sort of summarized what went on a web story on CCFR.ca. But basically, he went and participated in the Cape Breton pilot. Now, this was by appointment only. You had to go into the portal, which was very hard to use. It was not user-friendly. Upload, detail what information, self-report basically what firearms that you're going to be turning in. And he did that. It didn't provide him any sort of confirmation or verification that went. So he's like, I don't know, did it work? Did it not work? He waited, he got an appointment. This is, of course, by appointment only. And you may remember a few episodes back when we had that little video showing, I call it the cattle corral, where they had put the barricades up. And we had Jeff from Port Morion Wildlife kind of drive through it. So basically how it worked is you drive through all that. You leave your vehicle outside, you go inside to the cop shop, and the cops get your keys and go out to your car and grab your guns. And to me, it was just like, what? The cops go out, rummaging through your car and get your guns out of there. All right. So anyway, so he did that. He had to wait to get paid. And when he got paid, he was a little surprised because he got ripped off. At the low end he was promised was $1,100. I think the high end on the government's information was $2,400, and he got $550. So he tries calling the helpline, and he called 4 times. And basically this is just a call center where they take your information. They give you a ticket number, sort of like, you're waiting for a response, and nobody ever called him back. So there's no way to appeal, no way to speak to anybody. And that's it. So I know he caught a lot of flack on social media for even participating in this.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm happy to have the intel. So I for me, I wanted to know what this looked like and how it went, because of course, Gary said, oh yeah, it went really well. But Gary, and they're working out just a few minor bugs. But to me, it sounded like it went exactly like we suspected it might. And the entire thing was just a disaster.
Yeah,
so
it's a farce.
And he noted last thing. He noted in his commentary on CGN that he felt pressured into it. So it's exactly what we said. It was like a Hunger Games for gun owners. He felt like, well, if I'm going to be caught with these because they're already registered, I may as well try and get in at the ground floor and at least get something for it. And he was expecting his $1,100. And instead, he got ripped off by 50%. So, yeah, you were right, Giltaca.
Well, but the first people in weren't supposed to get ripped off. They were supposed to get paid. But I mean, we could go on all day about the inadequacies of what they put forward. But it's interesting because they say right on the website, the lower is the firearm, and that's what you're getting compensated for. You give them a lower, and they come up with some other number that isn't written anywhere. Nowhere is it written like, oh, if you only provide the complete lower or a strip lower or whatever, then it's this. There's like, oh, here's an arbitrary number that we're coming up with, and that's what you're getting. And you had no idea beforehand because we said the lower is the firearm, and then we're not going to answer your call. It took him a month to get a responch.
Yeah. And there's no recourse anyways. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And no appeals. Like, how much more angry do you want to make people? It's not an accident, in my opinion. They want to make you furiously angry. I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole, which is right in front of my feet right now. But it's almost like they want to make you furious. Why? I will let you guys decide why that is. But it's just, that kind of stuff is very interesting to me. It's a really weird game that these people are playing. But anyway.
Well, and I mean, I recognize, I have my own feelings about Buyback David doing it. But like I said, at the same time, I'm happy to have the intel, and I'm happy to have the confirmation that we knew, what we suspected. We didn't know, but we suspected was totally accurate. So in any event, it's going to be a big mess. And I just did an interview this morning, and somebody asked, the journalist asked me, how do you think they're going to get this done next month when they roll it out nationally? I have no idea. Like none.
You're getting exactly what you would expect.
Yeah. I
liberals.
Celebrate their incompetence. So bring it on.
You get exactly what you'd expect, which is just nothing but a nonstop fire hose of lies. Just stuff that is just demonstrably false that anyone with a clear thinking mind would be like, that's completely untrue. That is an absolute lie. These people don't even feel it. We're not dealing with normal people here. These people just fire hose lies all day long. Oh, in the coming days and weeks. It's like, what are you insane? It's the holidays, man. It's Christmas. That whole process. You guys are not even sitting anymore. What do you mean coming days and weeks? You have a buyback that literally 6 people out of 3,100 participated, if everybody had a prohib, right? But a lot of people
they've been saying days and weeks since 2020.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to make lying wrong again. That's something that needs to happen.
Stop it with all your honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Yeah.
There's no room for that.
You're an outlier if you're just like, I don't like lying. It undermines my self-esteem you're
sounding like an extremist now.
Yeah, that's like literally extremist stuff. All right, let's keep going. Another floor crossing has happened. And this makes 2, and 𝐿𝐿𝐅𝐑 is 1 seat away from a stolen majority government.
Yeah, you're right. So you'll remember last time we talked about Chris d'Entremont. He was the guy who was upset that he wasn't chosen as speaker like before, and he had a little bone to pick. So he picked it. This time it was Michael Moe, and he's an unknown backbencher. Like I actually had never even heard of him. First time MP. Makes you kind of wonder what was promised. But interestingly enough, the Liberal minister was on CTV saying there are more coming. He says there are more Conservative MPs who will be crossing the floor to support 𝐿𝐅𝐑 and hand him the majority that he was denied by the electorate. I don't know if that's the truth or if that's the strategy, but yeah, in any event, definitely damaging to the Poilievre camp. He will face a leadership review next month at convention, and you and I will be there. So we'll be bringing that news live to our people.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. It's funny because there's a lot of controversy around whether or not, because like floor crossing is allowed, right?
It's allowed.
It has, and I'm not justifying, but it is. In a time like this, where the country voted, for whatever reason, like we'll just leave the election the way it is, but the Liberals won, and they won a minority government. And then for that to change based on floor crossings is one thing to be, like, I can't work under this party anymore. It's immoral, and the other party is the one that stands up for what's right or whatever, and they cross the floor. But to secure a majority government by doing that, and they're offering these people something, I'm convinced of it. Like, I don't know because I'm not there, but I'm convinced there are some big offers being made because guys don't want, like this Moe guy, there are protests at his office. Chris d'Entremont, his reputation, I don't know what his reputation was like, but it's ruined. People think he's a piece of garbage. And I happen to share that opinion. Because anyone, again, with a clear thinking mind sees what's going on in the country and can see that it's negative, right? So he's like, so these guys, in my opinion, they're being offered something. And it's, as I said before, it's probably offshore. You're never going to find it, but it's something. And it's something significant for them to go against their own community like that. And that's not the way. That's not the way you're supposed to get a majority government.
No. And it's not just going against the will of the people who elected you or whatever. It's actually worse than that, because this guy, Michael Moe, the Conservatives, all the parties have their big Christmas party on Parliament Hill, right? And Michael Moe went to it the night before the floor crossing. He went to the Conservative Christmas party. He took his Secret Santa gift, but didn't bring one for the person he was supposed to bring one for. He also didn't pay for his ticket. But in any event, he danced and partied the night away with his colleagues, posed with the leader for pictures. Like, none of that is required. If you were having some feelings about your party and maybe about your future with it, you're not obligated to go to that party. You could have chosen not to. And just 9 days before the floor crossing, he did an intervention in the House of Commons talking about how the Liberals are responsible for people going hungry in the lineups at the food banks. The day of the floor crossing, 3.5 hours before it hit the media, he voted against the Liberal government and voted with the Conservative Party of Canada. And then 3 hours later, he was being introduced at the Liberal Christmas party. So, yeah, I mean, those things we talked about earlier, integrity, things like that, I think it's lacking. So, I mean, on one hand, good riddance to him, because we wouldn't want somebody like that in a political party, because you obviously can't count on him. But at the same time, you're right. To do all that, to embarrass himself, his family, he's had his staff very publicly quit. Interestingly enough, I think Brian Lilly shared out this morning, his annual Christmas mailer already went out with all the Conservative, logo and branding on it. So that's already gone out. Like, it's a mess, man. So I don't know. But He's a brand new MP, like I said, just newly elected, and hopefully he won't be reelected. So
yeah, just the behavior is just wild. And it's funny in politics. Yeah. It's like, well, this is how you it's a win at all cost game. And if somebody's going low, you have to get underneath what they're doing to make sure that they don't steal whatever from you. And it's like,
yeah,
it's a race to the bottom. And
it is.
I don't know. I mean, I've had 2 offers to get into politics, and I declined both of them because I don't think I'm going to be around people like that every day.
No, me neither.
Like it's so toxic. It's bad enough we got to do what we're doing right now and deal with these people from afar. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It's wild. All right. As you guys know, there's a mass shooting targeting Jewish people in Australia at Bondi Beach. Yeah. And it is pretty cut and dried what happened there. And it's just wild. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. We don't have all the information, but we do have some information, including the fact that this shooting was carried out with regular hunting guns, a bolt action and some shotguns, exactly like you would use for waterfowl hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a targeted terror attack on the Australian beach during their huge celebration for the start of Hanukkah. It was carried out by a father and son terror team. The son actually was investigated for ISIS terrorism back in 2019 as a teenager, and his father tried to get a gun license back in 2015. Now, his application sort of went stale or expired because it wasn't complete. He didn't submit a picture or whatever. I mean, here in Canada, we can relate to those kinds of issues. But the father did try again in 2022. He applied for a firearms license. Keep in mind, this is 3 years after his son was investigated for ISIS terrorism, and it was granted to the father in 2023, despite all of that. He owned 6 hunting firearms, as you said. They were registered. Over 50 people were shot on the beach that day. 15 people died, including at least 1 child. It was horrific to watch. And as a result, of course, of this extremism, this terrorism, the Australian government is now looking to limit the number of guns a person can own, to further limit the type of guns you can own, which I don't know what more they can do.
They're at the bottom of that list already.
And making citizenship a condition of gun ownership. So just like Canada, this is actually a rule in Canada as well. You don't need to be an actual citizen before getting your firearms license. And so they're looking to change that. No word on measures to reduce terrorism or extremism, just gun ownership. So
not even really a mention
kind of where it's at.
Of why that violence happened. And then you have, of course,
not much.
The prime minister, I think it was. I don't know all of their political people. They're this 𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐶 guy goes on and he warns about right-wing extremism and doesn't say exactly what the motivation of this attack was. And a bunch of other politicians on that side of the aisle did the same thing. And the first thing out of their mouth was, obviously, our gun laws aren't strong enough. And they don't have semi-autos there. They don't have high capacity magazine or standard capacity magazine. They don't have any of that stuff. What they have there is the dream of Canadian anti-gunners. The dreams, right? Full registration of everything, limits on the number of firearms you can use, limits on the types of firearms, right down to the most basic firearms there are. And of course, these people were able to do that. And now there's other aspects of this shooting that are pretty crazy. These guys kept going basically unmolested for a long time. Some people say 20 minutes, but I thought it was just over 10 minutes.
But, it was around 10 minutes.
Yeah. But like nobody intervened. And it's funny. I mean, everyone's seen the video. And for me, like I look at things differently because of my own background, right? And I'm like, I hear sirens wailing on that video for whatever it was, 8 or 10 minutes. But I did see an interview with whoever the chief of police or whoever was there was complaining that they had pistols and they're dealing with people with long guns. And it's like, well, how come you only have pistols? Right? Like, why don't you explain to me why your people don't have rifles? Anyway, there's a bunch of weird things, but it's just interesting. It's directly to gun control. It's like, you guys know exactly what happened there. You know exactly why it happened. You know exactly, they know everything, just like everybody else knows that has paid attention to the story. And they're like,
yes,
we need to be on guard for right-wing extremism and we need more gun control. Like, it couldn't be more in your face that it is. It's about the agenda, no matter who gets hurt. It's just interesting to me.
Yeah. And really dark times for the Jewish community, of course.
Absolutely. Anyway, as obviously that both of us are struggling to stay in our lane, because we do have a lane and we have to stay in it to some degree, yes. Right? Unlike some others who don't know when to stay in their lane, we do. But yeah. But I don't think anyone needs us to tell them what all went down there. And nobody really needs us to say, pay attention to what the government is doing before they even know exactly who all got hurt. They're already rolling out more gun control there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man.
That was the headlines before the beach was even cleaned up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what people need to be hit over the head to figure any of this stuff out. But anyway, I've had some exchanges with gun owners that I would consider, I guess you could say, are black-pilled. They're so discouraged and so disenchanted that they're just like, you know what? The conservatives and the liberals, they're two sides of the same coin. The conservatives aren't going to do anything. They're laughing at you when you leave the room. You think you know them, but they're not going to do anything for us, all the rest of that stuff. And I had this exchange with this guy. This guy's got terrible ideas. And I don't want to fight with people in our own community. And I realize that the frustration is breaking people, because it is breaking all kinds of people, not just people in our community, most certainly breaking people more on the left, because these are people that are inherently followers, right? Not leaders. And, the exchange was, I don't want to fight with you, but think about what you're saying. You have absolutely no idea at all, not the faintest clue, what the conservatives will or won't do. They haven't been in power for over a decade. So, and as we've said I've said all along, are the conservatives the answer to every problem in Canada? Absolutely not, because the political system can only answer so many problems, full stop. But for us to stop the bleeding, we need a majority or at least a minority government as soon as humanly possible. And politically, you only have so many options. And if you and again, I realize that people are just defeated because it's been so long. Me too. But if your answer is completely disengage, don't vote, be cynical, actually run your own side of the political spectrum through the mud because you're angry and cause them to lose another election should we get there, man, you just want the same thing to continue. You want the Liberals to win again. So I think the only reason I'm bringing this up, and it's really important, is this has been a long fight. Nobody knows it better than you or I, Wilson.
Right.
I live this stuff every day, and I've done it for a stinking decade. My original plan was to do it for a year. I am not happy either, and I'm struggling too. But these people are it's like throwing a cyanide tablet in the water supply, right? And you got to be really careful with people like that, because what if I was a little bit weaker and I got to the point where it's like, I don't need any of this crap. Nothing's going to change anyway. And I walk away and you walk away and the CCFR folds. If the CCFR, yes, we've lost. We've had tiny victories here and there, but we've lost this whole time. If the CCFR wasn't here, I will guarantee you that there would be firearm registration. The buyback already would have been finished. All these guns would have been gone. There'll be nothing to save.
Yeah, there's no real other opposition.
And probably worse, probably handguns would be gone too with no compensation. Nobody would get a penny for anything. This is where we would be if there was no opposition. So long story short, I know I've been going on a while, but when you encounter people like this, do not let them get into your head. I don't know if they work for Liberals or they're from a troll farm, or it's just a very angry and completely intellectually defeated gun owner somewhere. But if we stop fighting these people, and that means the CCFR stops fighting these people in particular, they are going to just walk right through all of this. They would have walked through all of it in Charlottetown. 5 days ago, they would have walked right through there and there would be a buyback being implemented there right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to fight with people, but for God's sakes, man, if you are a defeatist and you're ready to give up, just do it by yourself.
Yeah, do it quietly in the corner by yourself.
Yeah, because some of us
the rest
here
of us
aren't willing to just hand it to them,
No. And we've said from the beginning, like, look, we can't stop what they're doing. I mean, they use OICs. There's all kinds of ways that they just do whatever they want. And there's nothing really we can do to stop them. And trust me, we've tried everything. You know that. But at the same time, we've made it difficult. We've made it hard. We've made it embarrassing. We've made it politically less convenient. We're sitting here going into the new year, into 2026. We've all still got our stuff. They haven't been able to get this thing off the ground in almost 6 years.
That's
so
right.
I got, my thing is either fight or flight, and I'm not ready to just take off. So I'd rather dig in and fight it out. And whatever happens, happens. But I'd like to at least know at the end that we gave it our all. And you never know. Politics is wild, man. Every single day we think, maybe today will be a quieter day. And things are on fire from 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. All kinds of things could happen between now and next year. So, yeah.
And it's interesting too, because and it's not just the odd guy. Like there's been a few people out there and they come against the CCFR, right? And it's like, okay, what if the CCFR wasn't here? And as far as the CCFR, us continuing to fight, continuing to do everything we possibly can think of, that's not worth it. Like, honestly, what do you have? What is this guy? And typically the people that do that have never, ever donated or been a member of the CCFR. These are the free riders. And I get emails from these guys all the time, actually. Let me share this with you. I know we've been going for a while, but this is important. I get emails from guys and they're like, I want answers to this, that, and the other thing. You guys have done nothing, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I go, and a lot of times they put their name. And I check our membership database, and they've never, ever supported the CCFR. But they want me to drop everything and reply to them and tell them and justify to them why we still exist. And I'm like, usually what I do is I just go, hey, I can't find your name in our database. Have you ever been a member or donated to the CCFR or supported the CCFR? And 9 times out of 10, you know what happens? I never hear from them again.
Exactly.
These are the free riders, right? They let everybody else pay $40. I mean, what would they lose by supporting the CCFR? $40 a year, and you get insurance for that, right? But they're like, no, I'm not doing that, but I'm going to complain to these people. And then on the worst case scenario, I'm going to try to convince them to quit. Just weird, man. But we're not going to do that. We're not going anywhere. We're going to fight these people right to the end. And hopefully all of you are going to help us do that, either by buying a membership for $40 a year. What is that, like $1.50 a month? I don't know what that is. $2.50 a month. I got to do the math. But it's just wild,
that's
right?
Terrible math.
It's just wild. Sometimes we can really be our own worst enemies.
Well, I think we're all frustrated and we're beaten up and like, dude, I get it. Like me too.
Yeah.
I am in the same boat. But like I said, I would rather kind of harness that and focus it on fighting. And then, at least if the best we can do is make it difficult for them, then so be it. That's better than just handing it to them, because I don't have a single bone in my body that would allow me to do that. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of, we just got to keep pushing forward. The CCFR is going to have a physical AGM this year, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're going to do it in a central location so everyone can fly straight there if they got to fly, or drive if they're close by. So why don't you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, we've never actually done one here. So mark your calendars. This is a save the date. There's going to be all kinds of information to come. I haven't even done the back work to get a venue, but we're going to do it on May 23rd, 2026 in Mississauga, Toronto. And the reason for that is it's got the biggest airport in the country and it's central in the country. So it's difficult to choose a place, right? I think we've done it a couple times in Calgary, a couple times in Ottawa, and that works. But we're going to try it in the GTA. And the reason is because it'll be easy to get a flight. If you're from a small town in the East Coast or on the West Coast, you're still going to be able to fly to Toronto because it's central. And of course, there's lots of venues there, and you never know. There's lots of stuff to do there. Maybe you bring your family and make a trip out of it. So stay tuned. I don't have the details yet, but you're going to want to mark it off in your calendar. May 23rd, 2026, AGM, CCFR, Toronto.
So that'll be great. And what better opportunity would you have to get together with gun owners that don't give up, that are still fighting every day, and, rub elbows with the rest of us and, hear all about what happened over the last year and what our plans are for the year to come. So anyway, we're not done fighting yet. Okay. We got through our list. It was a long one, but it was important, obviously. Mm-hmm. So other than that, you got anything else?
No, that's it. Other than get your CCFR Gunnie Girl calendar. It's in the store now.
I don't think it's going to arrive by Christmas, but it'll get there at some point soon.
Yeah, just support the women's program. That's how we fund our Ladies Range Day. So help us out.
Yeah, and the store closes on the 21st because we have to do inventory for our audit. So
yeah, they'll be available in the new year too.
Awesome. All right, we got it all done. Thanks for the update, Ms. Wilson. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and we will see you in the next one.
Sounds good. Merry Christmas. We'll see you then.
All right. So I guess this is the end of episode 201 of the CCFR Radio podcast. As I mentioned in the intro, I have some really important information to share with you in the outro here, as well as a bit of a call to action. I need you to do something. So I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But speaking of important things, I just want to mention we have to award CCFR Field Officer of the Month for November 2025, and that is going to Amanda Gallen of the East Coast CCFR Gallen crew, right? So Amanda, Jason, and I believe their little one is Anna, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I apologize. But this little family is pulling tremendous weight on the East Coast. They went as a unit down to Boys Town in that rally. That was unbelievable. They did just phenomenal work for the CCFR there. And most recently, their most recent victory was being part of the crew down at Charlottetown, right? 7 days ago. Unbelievable. So, and they're all there. Just great. Anyway, congratulations, Amanda. And in case you forget, which I don't think so, because Jason won it a couple of months ago, well-deserved as well. If you're not sure, you get a year's free subscription from Canadian Access to Firearms, graciously donated every month by Donovan Dewis over there at CATF. Awesome dude. So thank you, Donovan, for that. I think Donovan puts the pictures of the field officers in the paper as well. You get recognized here on the podcast and on our nationally broadcast television show on Wild TV, CCFR Radio on the air, and you get a $100 promo code to the CCFR online store. So pretty awesome. Okay, thanks guys so much for everything you guys are doing. Like these people, you people know who you people are. They are just killing it over there. I just can't even describe how appreciative we all are here at the CCFR. Okay, now, something I need you guys to do, if you can possibly just take a couple of minutes and make the effort. When I was talking to Robert Freberg, you have a province like Saskatchewan, as I said before, that is doing every single thing they can possibly dig out of their heads that are possible on a provincial level to protect their citizens from this ridiculous assault from the federal government, right? And here's the problem that we have sometimes, which is when things are going good, you don't hear from anybody. And when things are going bad, you get an onslaught of feedback, constructive feedback, as it were, okay? So here's what I'm asking you. Can you please take a few minutes and email the Premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, and also Tim McLeod as well. I'm putting the email addresses in the description box for you. If you live in Saskatchewan, just tell Scott Moe how appreciative you are for his efforts and for spending his political capital defending gun owners' ability to have like AR-15s and handguns, at the far end of this end and protecting their hunting firearms and everything else and family heirlooms on this end of the spectrum, right? So they're doing it for everybody. So really appreciate it. Please send a quick thank you and some kind of words of support or encouragement to Tim McLeod and Scott Moe, if you possibly can. Their information is down below. So that's if you live in Saskatchewan. If you don't live in Saskatchewan, please do me a favor and send them a message each just saying, hey, I don't live in Saskatchewan, but I see what you guys are doing. And thank you so much for standing up for gun owners and serving as an example of what other provinces should do for their people if they truly were, concerned of their, concern for their welfare. So just some kind of thank you, some kind of compliment and encouragement for them to keep going, because I don't think this fight is over, and we're going to need these people in political and positions of political influence to continue to advocate for us, licensed, law-abiding gun owners. Really important. So we don't want to just flood them with letters when we don't like what we're doing. We got to flood them with encouragement when we do like that. Anyway, really important. If you could please do that. All right, almost wrapping up here. As mentioned, the CCFR online store is going to be closed on December 21st. Won't reopen till after New Year's because we got to do inventory. And another thing, the 𝐥𝐿𝐼𝐿 Wrangler contest. If you renew your CCFR membership, if you buy a new membership, whatever, you get a free entry into the draw for a 𝐿𝐿𝐼𝐿 Wrangler. I haven't shot that gun yet. I shot one at Odell Range Days back in the summer, but I haven't shot this specific firearm. I'm still debating whether I should shoot somebody else's gun or they should be the one to fire the first shot, but I'll have to struggle with that internally. I'll let you know before we send that gun out to you. But hopefully you can keep your CCFR membership current and or get a membership if you've kind of been sitting on the sidelines the whole time, seeing if we're going to do anything as a gun organization, which if you watch that 2-hour special, you can see what we've done, and what we have planned for the new year is going to be insane. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. So also, last warning, save the date. Well, last warning for this year. We'll give you plenty next year. Save the date, May 23rd, 2026. That's May 23rd for the CCFR in-person AGM in the GTA, right by the airport, YYZ, right? Pearson Airport. So we would love to see you there. Okay, I've covered everything. Long episode. I know, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Thanks for all your support. The fight is not over, and we are going to continue to fight right to the last day, okay, as an organization. Have a great Christmas. Have a great holiday. Have a great New Year. Take care, and we'll see you in 2026.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.